Welcome in to Inside the Icebox here on ESPN 97.5 and ESPN 925 and, the ESPN Houston YouTube channel here. Joe George and Jeremy Branham here with you on Twitter and Instagram and TikTok at Joe George Radio, at Jeremy Branham. Today's episode brought to you by Blue Star Tequila, the world's first and only night harvested tequila. It's tequila at its natural, unfiltered best, made with 100% blue agave, and it's totally additive free. You can find it near you at bluestartequila.com. Jeremy, we planned out what we were going to talk about on the show, and then all of a sudden, Ronel Blanco's got elbow issues. So Wesneski, Tommy John, Blanco, elbow issues, and the strength of the Astros has been their rotation this year and their bullpen, but really the rotation's been really good. And now it feels like there's so many questions about what's next for this team and what's next for this rotation. Obviously, we don't have an official word on Blanco, but it doesn't sound good.
No. I mean, anytime you have an elbow or a shoulder, it feels like it's a ticking time bomb for season-ending surgery. There's not many times whenever a guy has like a bum elbow or a bum shoulder, a pitcher with the Astros in recent years where, 2 weeks, they're good. The only one, Fromber had it last year, but Fromber was like a bruise or something because like they didn't even have imaging on him. So it's like, okay, well, if they're not having imaging on them, like either they're dumb or it's nothing. And it turned out to be nothing that time. But no, it just feels like a ticking time bomb. Look, we know that injuries happen in sports. We know that pitchers are getting hurt at an alarming rate across Major League Baseball, not just the Houston Astros. This is part of where their transparency, I think, makes the fan base a little uneasy. Is that I think we can all accept that injuries happen. Okay, this is happening. This is the injury. We're big boys. We can handle it. We can deal with the news. But it's always the mystery that surrounds it where we have distrust. And look, there's nothing to report now on Blanco. Like, we don't know what Blanco's MRI says. They don't know what Blanco's MRI says, assuming he has an MRI. But it's all the past stuff where it's like, okay, well, this is the worst news possible.
Yeah, I mean, it always goes back to – I feel like it really started with the Chandler Rome, Justin Verlander stuff where he reported he had was going to have Tommy John. The Astros, JV, all denied it. And then like 2 months later, he had Tommy John. Instead of just having it right away. They tried to work through it. I think that's where like the pitching distrust like really started with the fans of what's being told by the team. And it just sucks because I mean, think about what you've lost. Like you lost Jose Arrighetti, you've lost Luis Garcia, you lost Christian Javier, Wesneski, and now it feels like you're about to lose Blanco. I mean, like there are teams in baseball that rotation's better than. Of the guys they're going to have Tommy John. And it's not obviously your top two guys in the Astros rotation, but it leaves you with a lot of questions about what they do. Ari Alexander is reporting that Colton Gordon is coming back up and going to pitch this weekend in Seattle. To make that move, they have to put Ronel Blanco or someone else on the injured list. So at a minimum, Blanco's going on the 15-day IL so Colton Gordon can come up. But who starts the other game? I don't know. I mean, Brandon Walter was pretty good, but it won't be his turn in the rotation at that point. So they're going to be going to AJ Blueball maybe or someone else in the minors, a bullpen game. Like it sucks because it feels like the offense has struggled, and we're going to talk about the offense quite a bit on the show today and how it just stinks. But it doesn't feel insurmountable at this point with the rotation, but it definitely just makes the season so much more challenging to say the
least. My thought on this is that obviously it sucks. Like you never want to have a pitcher that's one of your top 5 starters get hurt because now you have to fill those innings. You have to fill the production. The optimistic point of view is that Fromber, Valdez, and Hunter Brown will go – like this rotation goes as far as those two go. If those two guys are elite, the rotation will be fine. If those two guys are just okay, the rotation is just going to be okay. If those guys disappoint the rest of the year, then the rotation is going to be disappointing. So, like, this rotation was always built around those two guys, and the success of those two guys was always going to be how the rotation fared. So that's the optimism. The optimism is you still have those two guys. Hunter Brown's been fantastic. Fromber Valdez is coming around, has been pitching much better. You know he's going to log around 200 innings in a sub 3.5 ERA because that's what Fromber Valdez does. And he's going to have a start or two or wanting to get him out of Houston. But he's going to have a sub 350 ERA at the end of the year. As long as those two guys are good and healthy, the rotation has a chance to be still really good despite what rotation spots 3 through 5 look like. And then also the Astros pitching factory, like this Jamie Moyer guy that pitched earlier in the week that 5 shutout innings. I know Tampa Bay's offense isn't great and they don't hit lefties well, but that guy looked like he's capable of getting guys out in the big leagues. Same thing with Gordon. I like what I've seen from Gordon. I think his stuff's pretty good. Gusto, I think, is a starting rotation guy in the big leagues. Blue ball, we'll see. He didn't look great in his first start, but this is what the factory does. This is what the Astros do. So stinks, but at least it's not Fromber or Hunter Brown, I guess is the best way of putting it if you want to be optimistic about it.
No, and I think too, I don't think it changes, if you're thinking it's, as this podcast comes out, it's May 22nd. But I think when you think about the long term of this season, 2 months away roughly from the trade deadline, Blanco's not stopping you from adding a Yusei Kikuchi level starter at the deadline again. You're probably still looking for an upgrade. Now, what this does, to me, is it creates a level of urgency to do that. There's more pressure on Dana Brown to find a veteran starter that you can rely on that maybe was a little broken elsewhere, can come here. You tell him to stop throwing one pitch and start throwing one all the time and fix him like they always seem to do. But I don't think this changes things for the long term of the Astros. It's just like they were always going to add a third starter because you're probably not getting Christian Javier back this year. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'll believe it when I see it. So it always felt like this is always going to be a team that was going to add a starting pitcher at the deadline. And now that just seems to be more urgent for me now, even though it's 2 months away.
The Astros are saying they expect Javier back in the summer. You don't believe them, huh?
No.
No, I don't know who would believe them. The last Tommy John guy they had was Luis Garcia, and he still isn't pitching. What's going on there? You see somebody that's going to help you this year. They expected to help him last year in the summer. That's why we don't believe the Javier news. JP France is not expected to pitch this year, and if he
I forgot about you.
Late, and he's also just a guy too. JP France is in the Gusto, Gordon, Jamie Moyer, blue ball tier. He's not. He's a back of the rotation starter. He's not a middle of the rotation starter. Arrighetti's a middle of the rotation guy. I think Blanco's a middle of the rotation guy. And then Fromber and Hunter are the only two top of the rotation guys that you have.
And I forgot to mention Arrighetti. He's going to come back from this injury. He's going to have to reset, but it's not an elbow injury. So you do have Arrighetti coming back at some point.
And he's a middle rotation guy. So if he pitches well, maybe that reduces the urgency. There's some guys that could fill out the rotation where it reduces the urgency to trade for a starter, but it also makes it very thin and very difficult to be able to sustain more injury, to weather that storm. What if you do lose Arrighetti again? Okay, now it's starting to get a little desperate. One guy we haven't even mentioned in this whole entire conversation is Lance McCullers. Lance McCullers is going to be in the rotation. What scenario is Lance McCullers not in the rotation? Everybody's healthy and Lance McCullers is pitching poorly. Well, everybody's not healthy. So, you can't afford to, just move on from Lance McCullers. You have to give him a leash now. You have to give him a runway. They probably were going to do it anyways, but the injuries that you've had with this rotation at least extend that runway for a few more starts. That's the state of life for the Houston Astros rotation right now. It's not in a great spot. You just hope that the factory can make chicken salad out of chicken you-know-what.
Yeah, and Lance, it's I'm not even sure it's a runway anymore. I think he's just here. It's as long as he doesn't get injured, I struggle to see a scenario now where you would feel, Lance is out of the rotation at some point, even post trade deadline, because you had so many injuries. It feels like you're destined to have another one too. That's what I think is hard about the Blanco injury, is that it's coming right off the Wesneski news. We haven't even done a podcast in a week's time in which he was officially diagnosed with having to have Tommy John surgery. So in the last week, you've officially lost Wesneski. You'll officially lose Blanco at some point, we're assuming. And then you're banking on Lance, who hadn't pitched in 3 years, to be an impactful guy in this rotation. And his last start was better, but same thing, got through 4 innings because he had a high pitch count. That's always been a Lance McCullers problem. And that just adds to the stress. And that to me is where I think the rotation, the injuries they concern me the most. Is it's not with the starters. Is I think, like you said, make chicken salad out of chicken bleep. Like they can find a way. These young guys have been surprising. I think is a good way to put it. But if they can only get you 5 innings, it's going to start taxing your bullpen in a way that's really challenging. That to me is the number one concern, more so than who's going to actually pitch on a Saturday or Sunday.
Yeah, it does tax your bullpen. Now, if you go to a 5-man rotation, now you have an extra arm over there, and it seems like they're going back to a 5-man rotation. Like, it's very unclear right now because of the injury news, and you've been throwing these spot starters into games with Gordon and Jamie Moyer. So if they go back to a 5-man, that helps them there because they get the extra arm. The other part of that too is like the bullpen's been good. So like even if they don't get hurt, just taxing them lessen their production, which is something that you have to keep an eye on as well. You can't overuse the back end guys. Like the Astros probably blew game 2 of the Tampa series because Hayden and Abreu weren't available. Okert, he's been pitching well all year. It's hard to put a lot of fault in him. But gives up a couple of runs. He wasn't at his very best. It was a night whenever they couldn't use Abreu and Hayden because they'd been used in back-to-back games in 3 of the last 4 or whatever the case may be there. So, yeah, I mean, that's something you have to monitor. That's something that you're going to have to, if you're Joe Espada, be careful that you don't overuse those guys. I do like that they've kind of staggered, and I don't know if they did this intentionally. I don't think that they did. But they've gotten away from Framber and Hunter back-to-back days, which I think is good because – those are the 2 guys that are going deep into games, right? So if you have Framber and Hunter Brown pitching back-to-back days and they're both going deep into games, it kind of loses the value of them going deep into games when they do it back-to-back. So if you space it out, now you're kind of, okay, the day that Framber's not pitching, this is going to be our heavy day. The day after Hunter Brown pitches, this is going to be our heavy day. But the day that Framber pitches and the day Hunter pitches, now that they're staggered, it's our light day. So I do like that they did that. I don't know if they did it on purpose. I think they probably stumbled into it. But I think that helps a little bit too because it staggers the heavy workload days. It also too, like if you're scared of pitching, your high leverage guys 3 days in a row, you assume that Framber and Hunter Brown are probably going to lead the game whenever they leave the game, and those are going to be high leverage days. So you really don't want your high leverage guys coming in for 2 starters where you expect your high leverage guys on back-to-back days. So I think that was a happy accident, as Bob Ross likes to say, but I do think it's beneficial.
And we also seen the return of Forrest Whitley coming back off the injured list. So we'll see what he can. I mean, look, he throws gas, low expectations, just because you might see him 2 or 3 times and then might be gone again. But hopefully he can provide some just added strength to the bullpen because that's what they need right now. Like they need to just as much help as they can to weather the storm. And hoping that Arrighetti can come back soon and Lance can improve and Hunter and Framber can just keep doing what they're doing.
I don't really mind that Forrest Whitley gets hurt a lot, though. Obviously, there's a reason here. Like, his importance on the pitching staff isn't that big a deal, right? Yeah. Like, he's not a high leverage guy. Like, he's probably going to pitch in low leverage situations. And look, obviously I want him healthy. Like I don't want him hurt because I think his stuff is nasty. I think his stuff plays. I think he can be a back end of the bullpen type of guy eventually. Like we see these converted starters become setup guys, closers. Like Kendall Graveman was a guy who was kind of like a mediocre starter in Oakland for all those years, gets converted to the bullpen and he's a lockdown back of the bullpen type of guy. His stuff plays. Like upper 90s fastball. He's got the sinker that's gross. His breaking ball is nasty. Like Forrest Whitley's good. Forrest Whitley, I know they were frustrated because he was this number 1 prospect and PEDs and injuries, and he can never stay on the field and all of that. But his stuff is gross, so he can help you. Now, why I don't care as much about like his injuries as I would a Hunter Brown is you're not counting on Forrest Whitley that much. So he's more replaceable. You can't replace Framber and Hunter Brown. You can replace your 5th most important bullpen pitcher.
Yeah.
As long as they're not like, like these long-term injuries, like as long as if they're lingering injuries, whatever, like give me 2 weeks of Forrest Whitley, go pitch good, and then land on the DL for 15 days. We can live with that. Couldn't live with like a Hunter Brown or Framber. And plus it keeps arms fresh there in the back of the bullpen. So it's the importance and the value to the team. I think Whitley can be very good. And I want to see him get a long runway and a long bill of health, but he's just not that important to the Astros' success. He can lift them a little bit, but if he doesn't pitch another game the rest of the year, how many wins or losses do they swing either way? It's neutral.
None. Yeah, it's totally neutral. Do you have any I'm curious, I think everyone has, thoughts and takes on this, but from your vantage point, does baseball have a solution for these arm injuries? Because
Yeah.
it just feels like it's to the point where they're throwing so much gas, they're focusing on so much spin. I mean, we're seeing kids in high school get Tommy John and then having Tommy John again in college. And I mean, I had friends who the first school I went to was a D3 school, and there was they were big time prospects for I would say to play at Illinois or Northwestern, and they're playing at this D3 school because they had Tommy John when they were a junior and missed their senior year. And it's I don't know what the solution is, but it is concerning, I think, from a big picture thing that you see that we're seeing so many injuries,
Mm-hmm.
and it just seems like no one has any kind of solution. And I don't know what that would even be, but you would think that you put all these baseball minds together, they could try to find something to mitigate some of this stuff.
I don't think they really care too much.
I think that's a fair point.
You always have to find the smoking gun, right? Or the motive here. Is baseball losing money because pitchers are getting hurt? I don't think so. I mean, if you start seeing all the top names, if Paul Skeens is out for 2 years, Pittsburgh's going to lose some ticket value, right? They're going to lose some money at the gate.
But what are the Yankees losing that Garrett Cole's not pitching this year?
Nothing. They're not losing any gate. Their attendance is still very high. So why would Major League Baseball care about players getting hurt if there's no penalty for it?
And all it honestly does is save the owners money because it just devalues pitchers. Because all it does is if you haven't had Tommy John yet, we're going to assume you're going to have it. I mean, Frommer's going to face that reality when he hits free agency. People are going to assume that we're assuming you're going to have it at some point. Think about how long it took Justin Verlander to have Tommy John. Same with Hunter Brown. People are going to assume that it's going to happen in their careers, and it kind of ruins the value of a starting pitcher in a lot of ways.
If I'm Dana Brown right now, why would you pay pitchers big money at all? Draft as many of them as you can. Find guys whose stuff you really like. While they're affordable, run them into the ground. Hunter Brown, I hate to say it, I'm not paying Hunter Brown huge money. With the pitching problem going on where everybody's getting hurt, he's going to end up like Garrett Cole, where he does not pitching. And these 6 years, while you have Hunter Brown, are probably going to be his best 6 years. Why would you protect him? You're not going to pay him.
Yeah, it's like running backs in the NFL.
You're protecting him from somebody else.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and I don't think that they are I don't think they have a governor on Hunter Brown. They've been using him. I don't think they've abused him, but they haven't really been, let's baby Hunter Brown because he's going to be here for 10 years. I think they've handled him right. But if I'm building just organizational pitching depth for my organization, I'm going to draft as many as I can. That way I can have cheap labor. I'm going to turn them into these, Astros pitching development factory that's been really good. And then in free agency, I'm going to find these guys who are they have good stuff, but no one's really paying them tons of money, these short-term 1-year deals, Okay, this stuff looks really good. He doesn't have the numbers. Maybe he's got injury concern, but we really the curveball. Okay, we like the curveball and the sinker. Let's get him to stop throwing the four seam, but he's not valued by baseball. We can get him for $10 million on a 1-year deal. Do it. And they did it with Kikuchi they didn't sign up, but they traded for Kikuchi when he was struggling, right? And then they got the best out of Kikuchi, and then they let him leave in free agency, and he regresses. Mm-hmm. So if that would be my philosophy, is I would draft as many good arms as I could, and then I would be looking in free agency for stuff I like that I could get on a short-term deal. Because, look at Lance McCullers' contract. Lance McCullers, and that was team-friendly when he signed it. People forget that. People forget he was team-friendly when he signed it because he's been hurt and it hasn't returned on the dollar what it could have been if he stayed healthy. Look at Javier. Javier was a team-friendly deal, and he hasn't pitched. I'm not signing pitchers to multi-year deals. I'm going to get them when I have club control. When their club control's done, if they're going to sign a multi-year deal, it's not going to be with me. And then I'm going to go look for bargain free agents. That's how I'm building a pitching staff. And I'm trying to get as many of them as possible because you're going to use 50 pitchers a year, it seems like these days. And as far as the problem, I don't know how you fix it because all of these guys want to throw as hard as possible and they want to spin the ball as much as possible.
And I also don't think it's their problem to fix. The problem to me
The
is
pitchers
starting
or the players. Or
Major
the,
League Baseball. I think because to me it seems like the problem is starting younger. Like it's they're overthrowing pitch limits. I mean, it
they're
just seems
probably overthrowing for
all
sure.
it's all different. Like I mean, like I was like we're not pro baseball players, but like I mean, I remember like it just feels like the rules have changed with how much a kid can pitch, and it just seems like the younger. Like when they're young, they're not being protected in the way that they need to be, and it's hurting them in the long run.
I agree with you, and I've read studies on this. Like it used to be like back when I was a kid, don't let a kid throw a curveball until they're 14 or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's like, no, teach them it early and teach proper mechanics. That way it doesn't tear up the elbow. And there's two schools of thought on that. I've also read up about like how these pitchers are throwing year round. Hey, maybe throw for 6 months and then take 6 months off.
Yeah.
No, maybe not completely off, but just like long toss, not pitching in a game, stuff like that. Which I mean, I agree with that, but at the same time, it's probably marginal, like the gap between like what is optimally right and what is optimally wrong is probably not that big a deal. And then like the value of randomness and chance probably overcompensates that anyways. So I don't think it's fixable. I really don't.
Yeah, I think as long as they're throwing this hard and this much spin, it's just kind of part of the sport now, which sucks. It's like you miss, it's not good for baseball to not have Garrett Cole on the mound every 5 days. It's just not. Like it's like you want the one time the Yankees play the Pirates, you want to get lucky and have Skeens versus Cole. You want to have Cole versus Hunter Brown when the Astros and the Yankees play. Like, and those things just get lost, and it's just. And teams overcome. Like that's what it's about. Like you're talking about developing. Like that's why like teams develop pitching. Like that's what wins championships. That's why the Astros have been so good for so long. Is because when they have these injuries, they just call up random dudes that we've never heard of that are not top prospects, and they come out here and they perform on a pretty consistent basis. I forgot the Christian Javier contract. Gosh, the worst part about this man is that the last year of it being team friendly is the year he's hurt. Is this year. I mean, his payroll goes up to $21.4 million the next 2 years. It jumps $11 million this year to next year.
Yeah, but that doesn't factor into the AAV. Like the AAV is the average annual of the contract, which is what's the average annual, like 17 million.
I think it's like 17 and a half.
I mean, Javier at $17 million is.
Oh no, it's 12.8.
Oh, that's stealing money if he's healthy.
Yeah,
if he's healthy.
But from the Jim Crane perspective, is he's giving him that much cash next year?
Sure. So yeah, but that doesn't affect the luxury tax payroll. The luxury tax payroll goes up based on the AAV. So, and they did that because of the arbitration years and the escalators of the arbitration. So I pulled it up too. They bought out 2 years of free agency for Javier, which I mean that's genius. Like that's great. You get a pitcher that's really good for less than $13 million AAV. That's fantastic. But then what happened? He got hurt. And he's not getting any return on the $13 million. That's what's frustrating.
Well, hey, he'll be back. He'll be back this summer. Yeah, but Javier will be back this summer, Jeremy. He'll be fine.
I hope. I mean, I hope. I don't know. The mystery to me is Luis Garcia. Like, why?
I think he retore it. I think he just retore it. Like,
so then why is he throwing baseballs right now?
I mean, I guess he didn't retear it. Or he hurt it again. But think about McCullers. McCullers
had 3 major injuries, though. Like 3 major.
We didn't know it. And that's with Garcia. It's like, are they trying to work through slowly this injury that they think could heal on its own before having to have surgery again? Because at some point, it's like, it's a lost cause. I mean, it's why, we saw Arrighetti get non-tendered because they didn't think he was going to come back anytime soon, was going to hit free agency this upcoming offseason anyways. Like, I feel like we're in a very similar situation with Luis Garcia. Like, if I had to bet on it, I don't know, right now my gut tells me we're not going to see him pitch for the Astros ever again. No, I would have said the same thing about Lance McCullers. And I lost a bet saying the same thing about Forrest Whitley. So I'm 0 for 2 so far. But
I think Garcia will pitch again with the Astros, but it might not be this year.
Yeah, so maybe it's next year. But then again, so I feel like we're assuming an injury is going to happen. All right. We'll take a quick break here. Let's hear from Blue Star Tequila as they explain to you what night harvesting really means.
In the highlands of Jalisco, as the fierce heat of day fades into dusk, the sun dips below the horizon, and our jimadores begin their work. Harvesting our precious agave azul beneath the glow of stars, while the night air is cool and calm. Away from the harsh heat of the sun, we protect our agave's freshness, locking in essential natural properties and sweetness, and preserving its unique flavor profile. This world-first practice has been warmly embraced by our jimadores, who relish the soothing embrace of evening's cool air as they work beneath the moonlight. 100% agave azul, night harvested, unfiltered, and additive-free. We invite you to taste the Blue Star difference.
All right, Jeremy, we spent the first half of the podcast here and more talking about the pitching staff, the injuries. Let's talk about the offense because it's still pretty tough, man. Jose Altuve has been struggling. But let's start with the positive here, okay? Cam Smith. We had the conversation last week if it was too early for Cam Smith to be called up. And since then, he's been really good, basically.
Yeah.
Feels like he's turning a corner in a big way. And what are your observations with Cam Smith over the last week or so?
Yeah, he's looked good. It doesn't change my mind that they called him up too soon. Is this worth an extra year of service time? Like people are like, no, like, yeah, like it's awesome that Cam Smith is becoming the player we think he's going to become. And look, I've always liked Cam Smith. This was more about service time manipulation and long-term perspective of the big league team. Because you have him for 6 years, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. So would you take these first 3 months of Cam Smith's career for 2031 when he's going to be at his peak? When he's going to be at his prime? Of course not. Yeah. Of course not. So because he's coming on strong doesn't mean that the Astros made the right decision. It should have never been up on this team on opening day. They wasted a year of service time. The only thing that will save them from ridicule, for me at least, is if they sign him to an extension that buys out some years of free agency, which maybe that comes and then this is all a moot point and it's irrelevant. But if that doesn't get done and he's a free agent after 2030, whenever he's like one of the best right fielders in baseball, then we're going to be looking back to the first 3 months of 2025 when he was hitting 225 and say, what in the world was Dana Brown thinking? So those both things are true here. Like those things don't marry. There's not correlation there. But I saw a better approach to the plate. Like last 14 days or whatever, he's hitting well over 300. He's getting on base a lot. He looks better at the plate. Like take the numbers away from it and just look at the eye test. Like, okay, he looks capable. He looks like he's not getting overmatched. He's having good at-bats. He's working counts. He's getting himself in good hitters counts. Getting on base at a good rate. And the slug has started to come a bit. Like we haven't seen a lot of the Cam Smith power. And we know he has it. Like when he gets a hold of it, it goes 100 miles away. We saw it in spring training. We know that's like one of the best tools of his game is his power. He hit one in Tampa where he yanked foul, where he hit it like 440 feet. Yeah. Like we know he has power. It's just about squaring up the baseball. And he'll start to square up the baseball the more comfortable he gets. No, I've liked what I've seen from Cam Smith the last couple of weeks. I think he's coming. I think we're about to see him break out. I think we're looking at a couple of months away from Cam Smith being in the middle of the order. Now, I'm not saying cleanup. I'm saying like sixth. But no, I believe he's going to be one of your top 5-ish offensive players by the end of summer.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. I think that it's just a comfortability. Like he just looks more. He looks much more comfortable, much more. I think just like also you can tell like it just feels like he just feels confident in what he's doing at the plate. Like it seems like something clicked for him, and we'll see like what this continues to look like. But I mean, look, here's the reason. There's a reason why it wasn't just the fact that he got called up early. Like going into the season, like he moved to as the betting favorite to win Rookie of the Year, and that totally seemed justified after the spring that he had. The fact that the Astros were pushing him through their system after just trading for him. And it felt like things were headed in that direction. And yeah, it was a slow start, but it just looks much better overall. I want to quickly combine the first part of the show with this real quick. I have a quick follow-up question. You're talking about service time manipulation. Do you have a different take on that with hitters versus pitchers because of the pitching injuries? Like, are you okay rushing a pitcher? Like, if Cam Smith was an arm, not a hitter, like, would you rush up the pitcher knowing that Tommy John is likely? Or
no. Okay. Rush, no, because it benefits you greatly if he gets hurt in the minors.
That's true. Okay.
because you don't have the service time. If a player gets placed on the injured list while he's on the big league club, that counts as days in the big league. So that hurts his service time. If he gets hurt in the minors, it's 0 days in the big leagues.
Yeah.
It's not, so you're gaining years. Like JP France kind of stinks because JP France got hurt while he was on the big league team. So he's accruing all of these dates of service time. So he'll be a free agent sooner. If he got hurt when he was in AAA, then he's accruing 0 time, and you're adding years or a year, depending on how long he's hurt. Of club control. So no. I think you should always be manipulating service time, unless the dude is no doubt like the best player at that position. I would have him in the minors as long as I can get away with it.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I was just curious if with the injuries, if that changed at all for you. And now, speaking of injuries, like we're still waiting. Obviously, I mean, honestly, by the time this comes out, like I guess in theory, Yordan Alvarez could be back, but it doesn't feel like he's coming back anytime. I mean, I guess he's coming back soon, but this hand injury is just like it's something. You're starting to see the I don't know if I want to call it anger, how annoyed the Daily Beat reporters are that they can't talk to Yordan Alvarez, and they finally do, and it's not a great update, honestly. But the Yordan stuff is just it's still baffling to me that it seems this bad. But he doesn't need surgery or anything. Like I don't get it. I don't get it.
I think he's got a bad body. Like I mean, some athletes have bad bodies. I don't think Yordan's to the extent of like Mike Trout or Anthony Rendon. And Rendon too probably is. He probably milked some of it because he doesn't like baseball. I mean, Tank Dell in Houston, right? Like now he's slim and small, and we thought that there was fear there that he wouldn't be able to sustain hits over a full NFL season. But some guys are just prone to injury. Like some guys, for whatever reason, you have a Cal Ripken Iron Man on one hand, and then you have a fragile Mike Trout on the other. And it's not, and like Mike Trout was in better shape than Cal Ripken. So like people have bad bodies. Like it's genetically unlucky. And I think Yordan is genetically unlucky. Like he's never played 150 games in a season ever. And people are like, well, that's a high bar. Is it? He's mostly a DH. Like
it's not.
Yeah, I know he's played some left, but he has a bad body. Like he is injury prone. He's fragile. I think that you could bank every year he's going to miss 20 to 25 games. And like we could be okay with it because whenever he's healthy, he's good. And then he shows up in the playoffs and hits big home runs. So we can accept it. That's fine. I have no problem accepting it, but it should be baked into who Yordan Alvarez is. And it is frustrating because the injuries, again, are mysterious. And with the Astros, they are even more mysterious. So, and also the Astros offense has struggled. I know they've won some games while Yordan's been gone, and they've kept their head above water. But the offense has also been not good. And it's like, yeah, give me that middle of the order, our best offensive player back. Yeah, it's just frustration, I think.
Now, we know that what Bregman's doing in Boston has been incredible. Like he changed his swing. He looks like midseason, like MVP-ish Bregman right now. Yeah. But the counter to that is Isaac Paredes has been fantastic. Is I think a way to put it. Like he's been very good for the Astros offensively. Defensively has not been the liability that I honestly thought he would be. That to me seems like it sucks to see what Bregman's doing at that level, I think, but this move feels very positive with Paredes being your everyday third baseman, replacing Alex Bregman. Are you surprised at all with what we're seeing with Paredes? Because it really feels like he's figuring this out, and that's part of the reason why I think they've done well without Yordan.
I don't love having the Isaac Bregman in the same sentence type of deal. I know that like Paredes is your new third baseman and Bregman's your old third baseman, but like that wasn't the decision. Like the decision was, okay, Bregman's going to make too much money. We don't feel comfortable paying him the contract north of what we offered him. So now what is the secondary move? And then you couple in the fact that, okay, well, Kyle Tucker is going to be in the last year of his deal, and we don't think we're going to re-sign him. So let's trade him for as much as we possibly can, which I like that trade. I liked it then. I still like it. You get a starting third baseman because you weren't paying Bregman. You get a starting right fielder. You caught up too early, but it's coming around. And then you added a back of the rotation starter, which with the Astros is just an arm until he gets hurt. But I like the trade a lot. Now, from an Esoc perspective, I kind of expected this offensively. His Chicago numbers, though, did concern me a bit. Like, who is the real Esoc Paredes? Because he struggled at Wrigley for whatever reason. He struggled as a Cub for whatever reason. Where I'm most surprised with him, though, is what you mentioned about his defense. He's super steady over there. He doesn't have the range that Bregman has probably. Like, he's not going to get to as many balls laterally. He's not as quick. But anything that's in his vicinity, he's not going to boot. Like, his glove is super steady. I actually think he's got a stronger arm than Bregman. Like, he's got a bit of a hose over there at third. So his defense has been far better than I thought it would be. Now, I don't think he can play second. Remember, everybody was having the conversation, like,
Arenado
Bregman back and Esoc's going to play second, or Arenado. Yeah, I have a hard time believing the Astros ever really thought that he would be a second baseman, especially when you couple it with the fact, why is Jose Altuve playing left field? Because they thought he'd be bad defensively at second again, and he had been bad the last 3 years. So I think a lot of the Esoc speculation of moving to second was a false narrative, really.
Yeah, but then I agree with you. Like, I don't see a second baseman in Paredes.
Not quick enough.
So if he wasn't going to play, I mean, maybe would he have been the DH?
If they traded for the Bregman case?
No, Arenado or Bregman.
So the Arenado timeline, I think if you look at the timeline for Arenado, it actually backs up my theory. Because whenever the Astros traded for Arenado, it was before they signed Walker. So, and then once Arenado kind of like ran the clock out on the deal, the Astros then signed Christian Walker. So I believe that if they would have traded for Arenado's your third baseman and Esoc's your first baseman.
That makes sense.
I don't think they ever signed Walker. And then the whole Bregman stuff, like late in the offseason, I don't know how true that was. And if
I think so too.
If it was true, maybe at that point it's just like, well, screw it. We bring in Bregman back. We're just going to play a bad defender at second. Or maybe Bregman would have played second.
Yeah, I mean, it's that or Altuve's at second and Yordan's in left and Paredes is your DH and you're kind of moving things around on a daily basis. But I think the Bregman stuff was always just – I think it was overblown, all of it. It really feels like as we learn more, I mean, Jim Crane himself said there was never another offer given. The Jose Altuve to left field thing was broken by Bob Nightingale as this is happening because he wants to move. He wants Alex Bregman back. When we found out that wasn't true, it just feels like a lot of smoke and mirrors around. Now that we're like months removed from it, it feels very just not real. All of it.
I don't think it was real. I think it was. I think that they had moved on. They realized that they weren't going to sign him early in the offseason, middle of the offseason. Their plan had nothing to do with Bregman. Clearly, they traded for Arenado. Esoc's your first baseman. Arenado says no, sign Walker, so Esoc's your third baseman, and Walker's your first baseman. I think it was one of those, okay, at the 11th hour, we think he could possibly sign here, and if he does, we'll just figure it out when he does. I don't think it was ever part of the plan, and I think that that's pretty clear. Now, the Altuve stuff is interesting, too, because apparently that had been in the works early in the offseason, and then it's spotted throughout the story. Well, he's doing it for Bregman. And, this is an example of managers, coaches kind of covering things up to make their superstar show up in a brighter light. The whole moving to the 2-hole, right? Whenever Altuve was the leadoff, moved to the 2-hole when he was mightily struggling and Pena was doing good. I believe that Altuve might have asked for that. I believe that that's possible. I also think it's possible that Espada went to Altuve and he's like, hey, Pena's been hot. Let's try him in the leadoff spot. What do you think? And then as a way to make you seem this as a hero, it was your idea. You needed more time coming in from left field to the dugout, half the games, because that's the only games that it's influenced. Yeah. So it kind of comes up with a story there to save Altuve a bit. I mean, 2-hole's still very important. And then Altuve gets moved to the 3 spot after Estock has a good game in the leadoff. And we just want to give it a look here for a little bit. So look, I don't know if I don't know how much truth there is to that, but it's very obvious to me that Altuve was moving to left field way before any second thought that Bregman was going to return to Houston.
Totally agree. So with the struggles on the offense, is there one thing you want to pinpoint them on?
Get Yordan back. Yordan back healthy.
You think that solves the problems?
it helps. It helps a lot. Yeah. I mean, he's the best offensive player on the team.
Mm-hmm.
So it would help a lot. Now, a lot of people talk about lineup construction and all that stuff. Like, I don't mind what they're doing right now. I like the top three. I mean, Pena's been getting on base a lot. He has your prototypical leadoff speed if you're into that sort of thing. I don't think it's a necessity to have speed to bat leadoff in 2025. I don't mind Isak batting leadoff, and he's super slow. But I like what they have going right now. I like Pena at the top. I like Isak 2-hole. I don't mind Altuve 3-hole for a bit. Now, if he continues to struggle, then it might be time for a conversation. I'd also like him to see him batting in front of Yordan. He maybe gets a little more fastballs and pitches to hit. Maybe that gets him going.
So Yordan bats fourth behind Altuve?
I've always wanted Yordan to bat fourth.
No, I think I actually really like that idea of going Pena, Paredes, Altuve, Yordan, 1 through 4.
I'm a big believer in stacking your best slugger in the 4 spot and then stacking your 3 best on-base guys in front of him. I think that analytics and sabermetrics have kind of devalued the cleanup spot. I think it's foolish, quite frankly. I also think it's devalued the player's profile as a hitter. It's like, oh, the numbers say this, so we think he's going to do the same numbers at the top of the order when I don't think that that's true. Yordan, to me, is a better middle-of-the-order hitter than he is a top-of-the-order guy. Yordan's a table clearer, not a table setter. And then the opposite's true for Jeremy Pena. Like, Jeremy Pena is not a table clearer. Jeremy Pena is a table setter. And I feel like analytics have gotten away from that. And then what's weird about it is if you pull up the numbers, Yordan's better in the cleanup spot than any other spot. Pena's better at the top than he is in the middle. So it's like these.
I mean, Christian Walker's having that same thing where when he's batting not third, his numbers are really good this season. When he's batting third, he's like the worst hitter in baseball.
Yeah, the analytics are weird to me. They cherry pick. It's like, okay, these numbers are important. Here are some numbers that contrast what you're saying. Well, those numbers aren't important. Why not? Why is Yordan batting fourth when his numbers are better than the top 3 spots in the order? Not important, but you're saying these other numbers are important. And I know the numbers. I love the numbers. I used to be one of those guys. Oh, the numbers are the end-all, be-all. Players have personalities. They're humans. Mm-hmm. Like we're talking about the injuries earlier. Can we define why a player gets hurt and why a player doesn't? If they're both in the same shape? No, we can't. That's why we can't define a player as a better middle-of-the-order guy than a top-of-the-order guy. In science, there are certain things in science that can't be proven, right? And what do scientists do whenever they can't prove something? Undefined. Undefined. Guys are undefined in certain areas that you can't define, and it drives those guys nuts, and then they ignore the opposite theories that could be true.
Yeah, it's almost like the question and answer that happened with Jackson Gatlin and Ime at the end of the Rockets season about the lineup construction and things when like the mixing and matching guys and how things were, and they just basically crapped on the kid like for no reason. It's the same thing here where it's like you can look at the numbers and they're the guys who are in baseball. Their numbers say this is the way we're supposed to do it. My eyeballs tell me the Astros offense has not been where it needs to be the last 2 seasons. Just the reality. Like really since, I mean, we've been talking about lineup construction more and batter's eyes more than we've ever talked about since 2023. Mm-hmm. It just was not a thing before that. And I don't know if that's a reflection of Joe Espada, if it's just the guys in the lineup, but like these were not conversations we were having until 2023, it felt like, on a regular basis. And I know the lineup, yeah.
No, I feel like we had it all the time with Dusty. I feel like it started the first game that Dusty managed.
Yeah. I feel like it's more because at least with Dusty, I was like, it's Dusty Baker. Like I kind of gave him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe it's more of like we feel more open to criticizing Joe Espada now.
What's weird to me though, because Dusty went more on vibes than anything else.
Yeah,
like, Dusty was a vibes guy, which I liked. I think managers should manage on vibes.
Totally agree.
So all of these numbers what are the numbers telling you? That on average this happens, right? X amount of times this is going to be the X percentage. Well, what if a manager is really good at like kind of defying the average, where he puts a guy in a super optimal spot because he has good vibes and good feel? That's something you can't define. And that drives the numbers people crazy because they can't define it. But there's so many things in life that are undefined, Joe.
So many things.
What's weird too about the Rockets thing with Gatlin is like he kind of they shouldn't have been rude to him or whatever. Like that was kind of uncalled for. But like he cherry picked a number
Yeah.
And then there was that tweet that came out like a day later. It's like, here are the 5 I think there's like 5 or 6 unique combinations of 5 guys on the floor for over 100 minutes, which is like, a decent sample. And it only happened like to 5 or 6 different combinations, and like the top 4 included Jalen Green. So it's like, and so that's kind of goes back to Rafael Stone's answer to that you can kind of manipulate stats with however you want to manipulate it. Yeah, he's right about that.
No, it's true. I mean, I think about a lot too. I mean, we see it like a lot with Pro Football Focus and all these baseball websites where it's like you can cherry pick things to make it fit your narrative more now than ever before. And look, it's the Astros offense just hasn't been good. Like I don't need numbers to tell me that. It's just not been good enough this year. And Yordan coming back, and the one thing again with Joe Espada, I'll give him credit for because like you, I don't believe it was Jose Altuve's idea to move out of the 1 spot. If it's not going to work, like it's time to start trying to change things. And they're obviously not going to be dramatic in terms of like Jose Altuve dropping way down. Like we're not going to do what happened probably during the COVID season, like we saw with Altuve. But with this new lineup, without Tucker, without Bregman, and bringing in new guys, like this is the opportunity to try to do new things. Put Pena up higher in the lineup. Jake Myers keeps going. See what Jake Myers can do. Like, is he a guy who could bat towards the top? I agree with your facial expressions there. I don't necessarily agree, but I know a lot of people want to see it.
You know what drives me crazy about the Myers thing?
Yeah.
We realized that he was doing this last year, right?
No, I think people forgot. Straight up.
100% I agree with you.
I think people forgot. Like, this is exactly what he did last year.
Exactly.
And then it fell off the biggest cliff possible, and the conversation turned into he shouldn't be on the team in 2025, and now he's doing it again. And look, I hope it sustains this time, but like, I don't believe in it yet. I do not believe in it at all.
No, I don't think he's one of the best offensive center fielders in baseball. Like,
I don't think that.
Like these number guys always should lead off because these numbers are so great. Okay, let's have a little bit of fill and prediction here. Yeah, but he did the same thing last year. And I like Myers. I like Myers because of his defense. He's a fantastic defender. He's so good defensively. I think people even still sleep on him defensively. He's so good. He's smooth too. Like he makes tough plays look easy, and I think that kind of hurts him at times. Because like there's been a lot of players that like make these diving plays. Like Loperfido was like this last year. Loperfido was making these like highlight reel diving plays, and then you look up the catch probability, it's like 80%.
Yeah.
So like he's making easy plays look hard, where Jake Myers makes hard plays look easy, and because it's not the highlight reel, he's just okay defensively. He's not sensational. Well, he's making 10% catch probability catches routinely, where nobody else in baseball is doing that. But he's not diving all over the place, so people don't think he's a great defender. And then he gets knocked on the arm, which he doesn't have a good arm, but it's in center field, so whatever. Now, do I think he's
Chaz's?
They're pretty even. They're pretty even.
You think it's even?
I mean, they measured on Savant. Last year, they kind of went back. I actually watched it a lot because people would always ridicule Myers' arm and be like, Chaz's arm's just as bad. And last year, they would go back and forth, like who jumped who, but they were both mid at best. And this year, Chaz doesn't have enough throws to qualify yet, so you can't compare and contrast their 2025 arm value. But yeah, I mean, I like Myers, but Myers is a bottom of the order hitter. If you want to hit him 7, 8, 9, that's fine, and then you live with him because no, he's been hot. That's great. Like go produce for the bottom of the order, but he shouldn't be a top of the order guy ever.
I agree, but I know people want it because they believe in Jake Myers.
I like do too, but not as a top of the order guy.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. All right, that will do it for this episode of Inside the Icebox. Today's episode is brought to you by Blue Star Tequila, where tradition meets precision. No additive filters, just 100% blue agave and commitment to doing things right. This is tequila with nothing to hide, smooth, rich, and unapologetically bold. Whether you're watching the big game or making your own moves, choose a tequila that plays by its own rules itself. Blue Star Tequila, no shortcuts, just greatness. Discover it at bluestartequila.com. So that will do it for us. Talking more things Astros next week here in Inside the Icebox. He's Jeremy Branham. I'm Joe George. Talk to you next week. Peace.